What is up, Team Starlight? Today we are here with the very, very special guest, Harrison Jeong, the latest Edison World Champion, winner of RBET Rulers. Welcome, Harrison.
Thanks for having me.
And also, we have Albert here to be asking some questions. We are going to be going over his Harrison's deck a little bit, and also going to be getting some expert replay analysis from the brains behind the operation. But to start off, Harrison, how does it feel to be an Edison World Champion?
I feel like I'm definitely still it's still processing. I know it's already been like 2 days, but the onpour of support and congratulatory messages, I think still kind of is it's helping to it's helping me to process it. But yeah, part of it definitely doesn't feel real. But as like the content starts to, come out, and as I start to like look over my replays, it's all settling in that, like, especially this year, a lot of the work that we've put in has really, really paid off, I'd say.
Yeah, you're definitely a champion of the people. I always see you
Yeah.
at the IRL events, and you're always supporting all the homies there. Even though you're playing against us, sometimes you're still, just great vibes all around. And we're all really happy that you are the RBET champion of 2025.
Thank you, thank you. Yeah, I mean, the community is, one of the best parts about, Edison, and to see everyone just succeed in different moments, and whether it's, newfound success or continued success, it's always great to see from everyone.
So I've got to ask you, is Blackwings the best deck in Edison format? Because clearly, if it was just going by if you play it, you think it's the best deck, you're a one trick. So what do you think about Blackwings as far as Edison format?
Yeah, so I feel like people might look at me awkwardly, especially like the Blackwing heads, if, I say Blackwings isn't the best deck. I think it's very strong, but I think that right now, especially like after like 4 years of Edison developing, I think most of us know there to be like a big three, being Volume Turbo, Frogs of some variant, and Blackwings. So I feel like it's kind of cyclic in that nature, and they're all really good in their own forms. So we've seen different people take down tournaments with different decks. So I wouldn't say it's the best deck. I think it's very strong. I think it's, kind of like that 1A, 1B, 1C. But for me, it's just my favorite deck. So, in that sense, it's the best.
And is that why you chose to kind of basically one trick this deck? Is it just because it's your favorite? Or is it like, I mean, it's a combination of, like you said, it's a top three deck, but is that your main motivation for just sticking with it after all this time?
Yeah. So kind of like the story behind me coming back into Edison was like I started in 2022 in Pasadena when they first started doing flights, and I actually held on to a lot of my old cards from when I used to play. And back in the day, I used to play Blackwing, even through like basically 2011 and like 2012. So like when Whirlwind was at one, when Kalut was at one, a lot of what I had was pretty much my old stuff. Granted, I had to grab some new things, like the values I don't think I had. And I started off playing hybrid, but it's pretty much just kind of what I enjoyed. And, the whole reason I got back into the Edison space too, was just to have fun with my friends. And I pretty much started by playing the deck that I had fun playing back in the day. And it's just pretty much carried forward until now. There are a couple decks I will say that I do want to kind of learn on my own. Two of those are GBs and Forgs. I think at the end of the day, Blackwings is just always going to be the thing that I stick with.
Dang, polar opposites, GBs and Forks. Well, I do not look forward to playing against you with either of those decks because they are scary in their own different ways.
Blackwings is definitely not the easiest deck to pilot, especially at a higher competitive level. I've been playing it like casually at locals just to like get better with the deck and the matchup, and there's definitely a lot of like micro decisions you have to make that like affect your long-term game plan, and it's not easy. It's definitely a lot more challenging than like activate Whirlwind, summon Shura, Sirocco.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's always great to hear people like, say that too, because on the surface for sure, and I think most people like would label Blackwings as a high floor deck, which it is, because it's at its surface, it's very straightforward to pick up, right? The plays are mostly normal summon base. Whirlwind, kind of works in a straightforward manner, and if you summon big guy with Whirlwind, you're generally going to be winning. But like you said, there are very small decisions that can factor into your mid and late game. So I don't know, like oftentimes when I play both IRL and online, just always take like the first turn or two to think about everything for like a minute or two. Your action, and like you said, your action in turn one can come back in like turn 5 or 6, and depending on what you did or what you didn't do, it could lead you to win or lose that game. So yeah.
Let's touch on a few parts about the deck. I know Blackwing decks are fairly similar between them, but you got some interesting choices in here. And my favorite is that 7 Tools of the Bandit in the main deck. We obviously on Team Starlight love that card, and we had a whole video talking about how we thought it made a lot of sense to play it in Blackwings, and people have been seeing success with it. So, have you been on this for a while, or are you loving the tech, or what? How did it perform?
Yeah, so I think I can't remember if I was on it at RBT Chicago, but I was definitely playing this at LDS OC, and I think the talks kind of surfaced around Chicago, but we just didn't have enough time to put it in to try it out. You guys, I watched your video as well, so I kind of know like the point behind it too. It's helping you with your proactive plays and your summons, your attacks, kind of acting as that spell speed 3 where there's only going to be a couple cards that can realistically stop it. In my matches, it did come up a couple times where it was really big and really important to have that. It's been doing exactly what it wants. For me, I'm on 1 in the main deck just because I'm not quite comfortable playing 2 across the whole main and side yet. The rest of our like practice squad is they're playing basically 2 dust and 2 7 tools across the main and side.
So is that more for like the mirror, or like what matchups
Yeah,
does 7 Tools perform the strongest for?
for sure. So the best matchups it's going to perform in are going to be against Blackwing, so the mirror, GVs for sure, and then any other like trap heavy decks. So like Hero Beat, even people might say it's non-existent, but it's definitely still there. At a general level, going to be very good against like the rest of the overarching meta. So if you think about, like, we can start from the top. So Vayu, they still play their basic traps. So actually in my first match, I used the 7 tools on a dust shoot. So you can use it on generic traps kind of in those situations against like frogs. So the rye breaks, those are pretty common. And then if you're playing against forgs, even if you have it, you have to have it very early, obviously. But to be able to use 7 tools on a reckless, I would gladly pay 1,000 life points to prevent my opponent from drawing 2 cards. So and it can trickle down to Lightsworn to some degree, Machina of course, because they play a lot of traps as well. In a general sense, you're really looking at like Bottomless Prison as the cards you want to address, because you want to make sure you want to make sure you're like level 4, stick on the board or hit the grave. So yeah, it's pretty versatile, but the 3 matchups that I mentioned before are like the main ones that we really want the 7 tools against, and that's why the rest of our squad is siding the second one for those guys.
Yeah, it's sort of like the evolution of Dark Illusion, which was seeing some play. I think it just is like it hits the choke points slightly better, like the bottomlesses of the world, the torrentials of the world. You sacrifice some of that utility, but I think what you're preventing is just way more powerful, and like you're preventing the stuff that's way more detrimental to the Blackwing game plan.
Okay, so you're on a 41. Why not cut one of the draw traps and go down to a nice clean 40?
Yeah, so that's definitely going to be like the biggest point of contention. And if I'm telling someone else like how they want to build the deck, then if you want to cut a draw trap and go to 40, I'm not going to stop you and say like I'm not going to say like, oh, that's wrong, you just say 41. For me, the reason why I have 3 draw traps and 41 is because of a mix of things. So between wanting to play 2 Vayu in my main deck, because I feel like it allows the deck to play a little more explosively, albeit a little bit at the cost of drawing it more. Playing the 1 Dust Tornado, because I think Dust Tornado main deck especially is really versatile and strong in Blackwings. Playing 3 draw traps, so this is the third point, and funny enough, third point for 3 draw traps, because I wanted to see draw traps a little bit more after talking with a lot of people. So the people I practice with, and Chofil, who's one of the people I talk with the most about Blackwings, they were all kind of preaching 3 draw traps to me, just because they were saying like, oh, sometimes I just don't see cards I need to play the game. So draw traps help get me there while kind of like holding off the game state sometimes potentially. So that's the third point. And then the last one is going to be the main 7 tools. Between wanting to fit all of those things, 41 was simply just like the easiest answer. And I guess TT is also a point of contention, but I think against like frogs, for instance, which is such a big part of the meta these days, it's just too good for me to cut from the main.
One other thing I wanted to touch on in the deck is this whole trooper knock mind control shenanigans that we've been seeing. So I'm definitely a fan of the knock in the side. Noblemen of Crossout, that is, if you don't know your acronyms. But there's always been this dilemma with that card where if you side 1, you might not see it. If you side 2, it's like maybe you'll see it, or is that the right number? Who knows? But if you side 3, like maybe you'll draw it in too many, or you'll draw it when Vayu Turbo doesn't have its flip monsters and you're just playing against Greffers and cards. So I actually think this like trooper plus knock plus mind control, giving you kind of like a more diverse set of cards to go into value, especially going second, makes a lot of sense here. Is that sort of the theory, or is there more to it than that on the like knock, mind control, card trooper stuff? I don't, card trooper is relatively new as far as like siding it in Blackwings, at least to my knowledge.
You're exactly right in that they're all kind of suited to fit different situations, but the common theme between all of these, and actually when you're going second, the Cyber Dragon is also included in the situation, is going to be early game aggression, so, or like trading favorably basically. So starting with the trooper, so this came from, I know some people have been doing it before, mainly Nelson or Johnny the Giraffe, and Chofil as well. So trooper kind of serves several purposes. So this comes against the Hanser Reiko Kaius decks usually, but yeah, so like against Vayu, that's going to be one of those matchups. You can mill 3, so you can land your level 4 in the grave. You can trade favorably with a Hamster Reiko. If it's Hamster, you run over. If it's Reiko, you draw a card. And then if it gets a prison out, then you trade, a prison for your trooper, which is a really good situation there. So that's kind of the instance for trooper. So I'll talk about the other 2 before Cyber Dragon, just because those were mentioned. Mind control, I think, is a little more straightforward. As long as you have the right read, or if you really just need a shotgun it, you can take Hamster or Reiko. I used to play Minecon and Reiko, but I think there's enough versatility between these 3 and the 4 to just kind of play the Minecon. And a lot of game states, I think T sets are like the most common where like you'll see the Reiko. So because like Vayu or like the Hamster Reiko decks won't want to trade with Icarus with like the Hamster usually, or like the Hamster will usually get that value there. So yeah, usually I feel like you see Hamster by itself. So I think that's one of like the telltale situations. Obviously, it's not always going to be like that, but yeah, it's like using Minecon, that's a little more straightforward. Knock, as you mentioned, I deal in the early game, but the main reason we included the knock was because it's more proactive to the early and like mid game plans that we want, in that we want to be the ones being more aggressive. We want to be the ones making the Hamster Reiko decks have to use their like some follow-up combos for defensive purposes rather than like comboing on you to kill you, because then you just give them more time, and then that's kind of how you end up losing the game. Albert, you're a value expert, so yeah, you could probably kind of attest to like, I don't know, the speed of some of these versus the speed of some of the other options. But yeah, the last one here, so Cyber Dragon specifically comes in second to kind of complement that game plan in that sense, where you have basically multiple options to kind of threaten. So like for I think one of the most ideal cases is going to be like Sidra Shura, where like you can send the Sidra and Shura, and then if you attack with Shura into a Reiko, they're probably going to pop the Shura, which means you're running in a free 21, and they still have another body to deal with. Obviously, this is assuming everything goes through, but like here in this situation, we're promoting our game plan and trying to push early damage and make the opponent use their pieces to defend themselves rather than to try and kill you and set up a more pressured board. So yeah, that's kind of what like all 4 of those are there for pretty much. Yeah, hopefully that helps.
That definitely helps. I feel like hearing you explain it like helps contextualize it so much, because if you just look at the side deck on its face, you're like, this is looking random as hell. We got one this, one that, one that. But Vayu Turbo has been one of the hardest nuts to crack as far as like how you side against it, because it's so resilient to all the side deck hate. So I think I like this idea of having like a diverse set of options to answer them going second, so that you're not always, because like I said, if you side 3 knock, like that's not always going to work for you, and you're going to draw dead knocks, or they're not going to draw certain parts of their engine. But if you have these cards that can answer multiple situations, it's putting you in a better position. So I liked hearing you talk about all those different kind of situations and how they can come up.
Is that why we're also not seeing a deck devi in the main or in the side to make room for this like new strat versus Vayu?
Yeah, I'd say that's probably one of the biggest reasons. And when we think about deck dev, I think one of the biggest deterrents for people was like just it sometimes doesn't feel as natural like as Vayu, to just be able to Vayu summon a guy and be like, oh, here's my deck dev target.
Right.
You kind of either have to like have the Sirocco or build something up to get there. And then if you look at the other matchups where deck dev was kind of coming in, there are already a lot of cards that help to address those matchups. So if you think of like Plants, for instance, like recently I feel like I've been watching a lot of Quick Draw versus Blackwing, and like that matchup has to be like 80-20 or 90-10 for Blackwings. It's so bad. But like
Yeah.
you don't need the deck dev. Like deck dev's probably gonna push an extra like 5%. You know, you already have oppression, you already have like Nox and Dynas and Crows and stuff like that. So yeah, for the other matchups, deck dev didn't feel as needed. And then against Vayu, which is one of them that you would want it against, there's also that level of variance where, you know, sometimes it's gonna hit like 3 or 4, which I've definitely had, and it feels great. But sometimes you're gonna hit like 1 or 2, and you're gonna leave them with like Breffer and Peace, and there's just gonna be able to kill you anyways. And it's like, well, that's not what I wanted. So yeah, I think that's a reason that I went off of deck dev for now. I will say, like, I'm not opposed to it for the future, but I personally think I would main deck it if I did.
And why is that? Why main deck just is better game one? That's kind of the classic, I feel like, argument I hear. It's
Yeah,
the best in game one.
yeah. So I think Philip, or Chet Manley, I think is his online alias, just kind of spoke to it when he talked about the deck, because he won Denver Day 2, where like most people, you know, like have to naturally build their deck to some way. And in the deck dev matchups, you kind of want the deck dev there, because in games 2 and 3, those decks will usually kind of side to account for deck dev in that aspect. So I think in that aspect, deck dev's going to be the strongest in game 1, and then game 2 and 3, you can kind of look to other options potentially, but or like, you know, you can bring it back in if you're going first or something like that. But yeah, deck dev's one of the cards where like against Vayu, you probably want it first and second, because first you can set it up naturally, hopefully, and then second you can always like set Sirocco and set deck dev. So yeah.
Nice, nice. Okay, well, we have a treat here. We are going to go over the finals match 1. So you were actually on the loser's side. So not only did you have to beat, his name's Sasha Edgar, right? This guy's like
Yes.
kind of cracked. Yeah, he's
Yeah,
a
yeah.
cracked Yu-Gi-Oh player. You had to not only beat him once, but you had to beat him a second time if you wanted to be the champion. And you managed to do that. And we're going to go over the first game because it was extremely close. I was watching it. It was a very, very good match. And we're going to get to hear your insight. So let me
Sounds
share
good.
my
Sounds
screen.
good.
Any like, you know, while I'm pulling it up here, any sort of like feelings as you're headed into this match, like mindset wise, because that's like obviously a very important part of the game, like the mental game. Like, how are you mentally preparing for this?
For sure. So a lot of people, I don't know if you guys know me as this, but a lot of people know me as like a serial doomer. Like I just find like certain things about each matchup to kind of yap about. So for me with the GB matchup, Trap Sun's the biggest thing. Like I think that card's absolutely frightening. And I think that's the one card that really makes this matchup like 50-50 for me. I know a lot of people will say, or some people will say, oh, I think it's really Blackwing favored. And some people on the GB side will be like, or they might say it's Blackwing favored, or like they might be like, oh, I think it's closer than, you know, people think. And I kind of think it's somewhere in between there. So going into this, I do have a good track record against GBs as of recent, but you know, you never kind of want to, you know, take your history, because every game's a new game. And then Sasha's also a really good player. So yeah, I just kind of came in, you know, trying to think about my game plan. And honestly, the match before beating Samu gave me a lot of confidence, because Samu's a beast too. So that's why I was like, holy shit, like if I do this, I think I might be able to do this one too. So yeah.
All right, let's get into it because this is already looking pretty good. If you're looking at your opening hand here, we've got the Dust Shoot, Dimensional Prison, Heavy Storm, but you are going second.
Yeah. Yeah. In our first match, when I lost, I actually went second, and I lost because of it, because I actually opened Dust Shoot as well, Dust Shoot Shura and some other cards. But because I went second, and his hand was really good, he went summon 1 set 3 and could basically never activate the Dust Shoot and never get through the back rows. But as you can see right now, this match is very, very different already. So yeah, in this turn 1, you know, the Shura is never going to get through anyways, and so there's going to be no reason to heavy. There's going to be no reason to summon the Shura, and no reason to commit this brain control. So the only other cards you really have to look at are going to be your Prison and your Dust Shoot. So those are always going to come down. Laquari is going to be one of the best monsters to remove against GBs, because, you know, it's the big guy, And when it becomes 2100, it beats over every single monster you have in your deck besides Dark Arm. And then 2, it makes Herc, which is frightening as well, and I don't like that card. But yeah, so that card's coming down, and because you can Dust Shoot, that's coming down as well. But so this is the first instance where Trap Sun comes into play. So this is a scenario where you can't shotgun in standby phase, because if you do and that's Trap Sun, you automatically lose this game right here. If there's a Tiger in hand,
heads up play.
yeah,
This is crazy high level play here, because you would be absolutely doomed if this was trap stun and you just get ran in. He tags into the guy and then pops this back row. You just lose on the spot. So this is very impressive how you played this here.
So if he commits another monster there, then or like is able to get, he kind of foreshadows that he's gonna get to 3. Then sure, you can try and Dust Shoot. But yeah, I think this scenario, he kind of stayed committed to 1, so you can see if the prison goes through, and if that is Trap Stun, that's where you chain the Dust Shoot. So you will still get your value, and you still have a really strong hand to follow up. So it's no problem at all right there.
So now you've resolved the Dust Shoot because he's ending the battle phase. So now you want to play it before obviously they commit another monster. You want to be able to see everything, or back row, I should say. What are you thinking when you see his hand here? Test Tiger, Prisma, Laquari, Sam Knight, Chariot.
Yeah, so Laquari is obviously a little bit of a problem because it still ties with their Shura, but everything else you can deal with. The Tiger enables the combo, so you really just don't want to see the Tiger, and you want to be able to run over something with Shura, of course. So by process of elimination, it's pretty much the Tiger. The Chariot's not a huge deal because if you are to run over a GB with Shura, you should be able to get that effect without having to worry about the Chariot. But yeah, that's kind of the thought there.
Makes sense to me.
Yeah.
So now he's obviously going to set the Chariot. You know exactly where and what it is.
Yeah, so this was also a really tough turn. So I know I set the bottomless in the prison right here, but there was some consideration right here to set the prison in the heavy. The reason why that's a kind of tentative or not a great play is because the reason why I thought of it is because after looking at his hand, he had the chance to summon another monster right there, but he didn't. So that's kind of why I thought of it. But if he does decide to commit the Prisma there and you don't set the bottomless and you set prison heavy, you are 100% losing there. So
or he just summons the GB, right? Because he could just, even if he just went double GB swing and your heavy's getting popped because you only can stop one of those attacks, then you might be screwed that way too. So I think that this is correct here. You don't want to fire the heavy into back row and then not make a big play because the Shura's not running over this. So I think
so it's always just easier to clear those monsters for sure. So I think here,
prison.
I think we find out in like 2 or 3 turns that he had a compulsory, and I think he mentioned that he was supposed to use it here, which I agree with. Getting him off both Laquaris is huge. You never have to see Herc ever again, and I won't complain about that. So yeah.
Oh wait, so why didn't you choose to bottomless this here? I'm actually realizing this now. You have a tempting play next turn. You bottomless this, then you heavy storm. Why not go for that?
Yeah, so the reason I feel like I don't need to use the bottomless here is because 1, I have heavy, and then 2, I have the follow-up with the Shura. So Shura plus something can help me to thin the deck, and right now I need to see more stuff. So if I can thin the deck by 1, even if that means getting a Value Engrave, that's totally okay with me, because if the GB player, sees the value and wants to go Rexiari, that's a weaker body that's going to be on board for future turns. So, most of the Blackwings you can draw will beat over the Rexiari. So it's not like a trade you're going to be too sad to make. Yeah.
I see.
Yeah,
so and you just pass. Yeah, so much patience.
Yeah, so there's not much to do here because you could heavy, but if you heavy Ensura, he is the Prisma, so one play, 1 Tiger can send that back south again. So there's really no other choice here besides to wait.
Right. Okay. That makes sense to me. So he's going to give himself a think and just choose to attack. Let's see what he tags into.
Yeah, and here, so we know both Laquars are gone, so I think, yeah, Bestie seems the most straightforward, and, this is going to be an ideal situation. If you can try and bottomless the Bestie, you're going to force something in some capacity. So now I get to find out what the other card is, and we find out it's compulsory, so that's really good for me. Yeah.
Nice, yeah. And now you know the last card's Chariot, and let's see what Sasha does here. He's just going to pass, so now what are you thinking?
Yeah, so now that you have the Blizzard, you have some kind of play to follow up with your Shura, and if if the Shura does somehow get removed with like Retiari, you can always use Brain Control to get back, and the Blizzard naturally will run over anyways. Because you know that's Chariot, you can safely run this in without using Heavy. So yeah, it's just kind of the most straightforward option here.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
But now
And
you are
knowing
looking
now-
a little vulnerable, but you have this, which is really
Yeah.
nice, this
Yeah.
combo.
So knowing also that one, his Bessie's in hand, so he can't do Prisma combos, and two, that both the quarries are gone, so that he can't Secutor into Herc. I know that this cat play, while cat is naturally very threatening, won't be as threatening as it normally would be.
Oh, that's so right. I remember thinking, why didn't he go into Herc when I was watching this? But I hadn't even really
Yeah.
clocked that
It's
this
'cause
was
they're both
banished. So
gone.
that's
Yeah,
so.
I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah, so this is probably the least threatening Secutor has ever been to me, which is very nice. Because naturally Secutor is very scary. So here's a no-brainer fire the heavy. You're gonna make your play to come back with the Blizzard in the brain. Since he Chariot, I mean, there's no targets anyways, but that's Chariot, so you know this play's gonna go through. And then you make Android in main too because Catasser will lose to that Chariot. So you have one turn basically to kind of make sure that you can answer the board that they set up.
This is awesome. This is awesome. Yeah, just saving that brain heavy, like so much patience to be able to crack back in that
Yeah.
moment.
And then here there's a billion ways to go through games, so you just use the Icarus.
Yeah, the known Chariot, just get rid of that monster. They're probably not on Gores, and if they are, it doesn't matter because they're one shot away. So that's
Yep.
game one. Huge, huge, huge to be up, especially going second.
Yeah, this is definitely not a hand you want to see going second, but it'd be like that sometimes. You just, got to try and play through. Seeing this is very threatening for sure, because the reason why this is so threatening from your perspective, from like the opposing perspective, is because Prisma means that they have a free Bestie send, which means that any GB means a free Geysaris there. So I think whenever you see Prisma, you just got to think about that. It's not just going to be like, oh, it's just an E-Hero sitting here. He's going to be able to dump more and more. And I think he shows, I forget if it's this series he showed it or the other match that we played before this. But like once they get in that series where they can Bestie dump and then make Geysaris, they basically have infinite access to Geysaris because they can always use a quest to get back the Bestie. So that's something you really, really have to watch out for.
Right. So with this opening hand, the below average Blackwing play, I should say, would just be like Unga Bunga Slam, and sometimes it is the right play. Is it just always this, or what are you thinking about when you're thinking, should I play my Whirlwind now?
Yeah, so the reason, so here I'm thinking that there's already 4 back row, so if there's ever gonna be, I think, any way to win this game, I'm gonna have to get this through at some point, because those 4 traps, especially knowing, so I kind of roughly knew or had an idea what build Agera was going to be on, because I saw 42, and I also know that Johnson Boss, who's one of Agera's teammates in War League, had just recently done really well with the 42 card list. So I was able to like look at that before, and they side 3 trap hole. So like if you wanted to like Whirlwind Collude, to try and play under bottomless, you're not playing around trap hole there. And I saw trap holes the first time we played, so like if there's ever going to be any time to fire it, it's going to be now. If it also trades with the Dust Tornado, then your bottomless is going to potentially fly. So I think, obviously you'd love to get the search, but if you can clear the monsters and, keep yourself alive, that's going to be the biggest thing in this matchup.
Right. Because sometimes it's like, it's good to hold it, but other times it's like, you like you said, like you need to play your cards or you're not going to win with GB set 4. So I think I like this play here, just going for it.
Yeah, and the fact that he has to book this, I think now can telegraph that, it's not the 3 trap hole, it's not the 2 bottomless, so there's probably going to be 1 battle trap somewhere there, one chainable to some degree, and I would guess one protection card. I do know that they cite Starlight Road, so I would guess Rotor Solemn as the last one, but you can never be certain because sometimes GB players are just kind of consigned to having to set 4. So
Yeah.
yeah. There was a consideration to using the bottomless here, but personally, I don't know. I think this is one of the points where I could reconsider that part because I know the interaction in Edison is super weird. Where like if you bottomless the Darius, the Bessie does not get its effect, which is it's weird, but that's just kind of how it's ruled in Edison. So yeah, I think if there was going to be any
So it
time to
can
bottomless,
get its
but
effect, right?
yeah,
Isn't that how? Yeah.
so yeah, because under any other circumstance where Darius leaves, the bestie would get its effect, but it's specifically the interaction with Bottomless and Darius where the monster will not get
Oh,
its effect.
what? That's
Yeah,
so interesting.
it's really really weird. Yeah.
So why not? I guess this was a big conversation. I think why not bottomless the bestie here?
Yeah.
Because you choose to
So
wait, right?
yeah, so now that you know the best, or I guess if you let the Darius come out, then the bestie has to activate. So he mentioned this, and I also know this. So the bestie target selects the whirlwind. So I guess I could do it here, but I'm thinking that I need to address like the bigger threat because that Prisma is still a bestie. So if I bottomless, then I still have to deal with a 24 here. So I'd rather deal with a 17 than a 24 is my thought.
Right. Okay, that makes a lot of sense actually. If you banish it, you're getting blown up anyway. So here he's gonna go for it,
Yeah,
and
and I'm a little surprised he didn't try to pop both, considering he had 3 more back rows. But yeah, he only goes for the face down. Yeah, you can see I asked the question, so I'm kind of just like, sure, I'll take that trade.
hmm, very interesting. Very
Yeah,
interesting. Playing around the road there. Maybe he doesn't know your list.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
yeah.
So yeah,
Fair
this is a
enough.
no-brainer. Fire the allure. A little unfortunate because now these are both of the blizzards. So part of the GB game plan, usually siding on a blizzard, but as it stands right now, I'd probably want that blizzard over the Kalut, and the reason why is because if the first blizzard summon doesn't go through here, then you can always try and do the blizzard special Bora, and that's probably going to be better over the long term than blizzard protected by Kalut. So
Interesting.
yeah.
Okay. So now we fire it, we get the double search here, or I
Yeah.
should say special then search, and he has no response. So
Yeah.
are you gonna make, let's see what you're gonna make here.
So yeah, I go
Armwing.
into Armwing. I think the other consideration is going to be Brio. You could try and bounce something, but you're never attacking here, and it's kind of related to like reading the back rows here because if they had to book a summon, then I think you can kind of rationalize that one of those should be a combat trap, and you need the monster to stick right now. If they have compulsory, then they have compulsory. But as far as keeping your monster on the board, you do what you can.
Yeah, it's GBs at the end of the day. Like this could get really out of hand if he just has a deep prison and then summons a GB, and
Yeah.
like this can go back into his
Mhm.
bestie play again. So I think this is the right call, choosing
Yeah.
to not attack, but he is gonna pop, I think here.
Yeah, so he went for the pop effect, and because it doesn't target, he gets the choose. And I had the book for if he was gonna try the prism play again, but because he had the Shadows pop effect, I couldn't do it. So and I have to let that fly there because nothing's gonna change if I use that book, and I need to potentially keep it there in case he does target the whirlwind, because then I can bluff the trap.
Yeah. Absolutely. I like that play. He's going to do this play again. And he does have Test Tiger, so this one looks like it's probably slipping away.
Oh, it's been slipping away. It's gone.
Going.
Yeah, so there's a mandatory target
gone.
again. Yeah. And then so here I was thinking he has to choose something to Retiari, and if he doesn't use the Retiari on the Armwing, then I don't think he is Chariot, because then he would just be able to prevent the Brio. But yeah, he goes for the Shura. Yeah.
I mean,
And
this is a decent top deck Icarus here, but like you said, it's just too far behind, and that Compulse is just gonna seal it. It's gonna guarantee that he's gonna be able to kill you next turn. So, damn, this is like for all of the marbles, you need to win this game, or it's over. He's the champ.
Yeah. So this is a great start. You know, you see a big monster, you see a card that gets the monster off the field, and you see backward removal. So great start here. Um,
I actually
the
do
value a
wonder
little less
here. A
so.
lot of people only will set one. Like, why do you choose to set two here? Like, why is now the time to play into heavy a little bit and just say F it?
Yeah. So I guess in turn one you can try to play around heavy a little, but I think you need to kind of face or pose a little more of a threat to GBs. And because their card quality sometimes can be stronger, and Icarus is going to be one of your best cards. So just kind of always having a way to pose that threat, I think, is really important, because if you can hit some of their traps before they're active, that's going to be really big. So that might lead someone to say like, oh, I'm just going to set one here instead of set two or set three, because I might lose one of these important cards. So just always posing like what that card could be. Yeah, it's important.
That's actually so real. Yeah, like setting the MST makes it so that he's probably not going to set two. I never even really thought about that because I don't play this deck like almost ever, but
Yeah,
that is huge because now he only sets one exactly like you said, and you just space it. And so now
yeah.
you're kind of able to get in for the damage.
And this turn right here, so Johnson Boss commented on one of the videos, and this is like the most important turn of this, I'd say, of this match. And the reason being, right here, you have to recognize that you're going to be 5 cards to 4 because you're the turn player. But if you look at your hand and you think about, the plays that they can have, if you don't kill them really quickly, then right now, as it stands, your monsters are not going to stand up to theirs. And if they have the one-off chariot, especially, you're probably going to lose even harder. So because you're backed by both the Kalut and the Bottomless, this is a really safe turn to actually go really aggressive here. If they do have Gores for the last attack, then you can always just half, the Gores, and you have the Kalut to back up most of your other monsters anyways. So this is a turn where it's worth risking it into Gores and to pose a 2-turn clock. So this is one of the things I've learned from like both playing Yu-Gi-Oh and playing other card games, where like, the like one of the best things after being able to kill them on the same turn is being able to pose a 2-turn lethal, because this forces the opponent to be a little more reactive. So now, I'm saying like, okay, these monsters are enough to the point where one more monster draw will win me the game. And if I can deal with your monster and you don't have cards to deal with mine, I will just straight up win here. So you have to do something.
Yeah, I would say at least 50% of Blackwing players are not summoning either of these. They're just going Bora Swing, set bottomless. So yeah, I
Yeah,
think this is very, very recognizing your win condition with Blackwings is putting them on this damage clock because, like you said, their monsters are a lot more threatening. If they just go MST, summon a big guy, like it can get bad, and then you don't have
yeah.
the damage clock on your side. So this is really, really, really excellent stuff here.
Yeah, so most of the monsters, if it's over 15, yep, you can do exactly that. And if it's under 15 and they try to attack the Vayu or the Gale, you have the Clue to back it up. So, yeah.
Yeah, just don't even deal with any test tiger shenanigans. Just get that off the field.
Exactly, yeah. And at this point, you just kind of push. If it's a combat trap, then, you have the follow-up. And then if it's not, then it's game right here. And I think it is, yeah. So
Wow.
that's the,
Holy.
yeah.
It seems so simple when you think about it. Like after the fact, it's like, oh yeah, that was just game. I had Collude, I just summoned my monsters. But I feel like if I was playing Black Knees, I don't know if I would have just slammed everything there. You know what I mean? And I don't think it's actually that easy of a decision to do that. But yeah, I
Mhm.
think that was a really instructive game three on how you're actually gonna win this game, this matchup.
Yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. I feel like with this like aggressive stance, actually one of the players that helped like me to kind of recognize or try and recognize these lines is Ludo. So I haven't actually talked with Ludo, but like when I watch Ludo's replays, he's so aggressive. Sometimes to a point where I'm like, holy shit, like this guy just has like does not give a shit about anything. But I think being able to recognize those lines and also recognize your role in the matchup is really important. So yeah, that's a really good example of one of those turns where you need to recognize, the kind of the role you play in that matchup, and the fact that you can just churn out a bunch of damage that turn, and the fact that it's backed up by a couple cards is just even better.
Yep, so obviously you would go on to win that set. You 2-0'd the final match there. So just really awesome to thanks again for providing the insight and going over that replay in depth. And just a couple more questions here. What do you think about just like the state of Edison in general now? As like the latest world champion, I feel like you almost become like an ambassador for the game. Like, do you think the Edison format is in a good place right now? Is it Like, just what are your overall thoughts?
Yeah, I think so. Looking back at like the year for me too, I think that it's been a great year for Edison. I think certain decks have kind of come into the spotlight. Certain cards have come into the spotlight as well. And on top of that, I think one of the biggest things with like grassroots scenes are going to be people. So people have come into the spotlight, and like some of the people have topped multiple tournaments. A couple of them right here with us right now, looking at you guys.
Mm.
But yeah, seeing like players kind of forge identities for themselves and kind of pave the way for decks and watching them play too, I think has just been amazing for this year in Edison. Like I think every single like match that I've gotten to see in like the later rounds of tournaments and both online and IRL, like you can just see, the difference and like the people and what they know about their decks and the matchups that they're playing. And we're only going to be getting better. And, sometimes those like reads will kind of start to turn around into like, what do I think this person's going to do? And I think that introduces a whole another level of variance that can, make games more stressful for sure, but also more fun. So yeah, I think that we're in a really good state. I think the decks are overall really good. I know people really like to complain about GBs, and I understand to some degree for sure. But I think that overall it's a really healthy meta. I think that it's really diverse, and yeah, players are still finding ways to get better.
I like that take. Like at the top level, we're approaching a state where it's like people will start to metagame the normal decisions that people are normally playing around to where
Exactly.
like then you can make certain bluffs to make people do certain reads. So yeah, the game just continues to evolve, especially at the highest level. So really, really good answer there.
And with that said, any closing thoughts and shout outs you want to give?
Starting with the closing thoughts. So it's crazy that, I'm still processing the fact that I won this tournament, and it was a small pool, but I think there were a lot of really strong duelists in this tournament. And like, while, like my name will be there as the winner, like it's really not possible with like so many people. And I guess that kind of transitions to the shout out. So first and foremost, Matt and Jacob are the two guys that I play with the most. Matt, if you don't know him, his online alias is Ichigo Kurosaki. He got top four at Denver. He's one of the best players I know. He's helped me so much, and so is Jacob. Jacob's the Chicago winner. So overall, it's been a crazy year for us. But those are the guys that I will always go to events with, and without them, I'm not playing this game. So yeah, big ups to them. They were also supporting me through the whole day, as well as the rest of the Hawaii boys, because that's where I'm from. So we still kind of keep up, and yeah, they're always super supportive. Otherwise, so got a couple like teams to shout out. So my team for Worley, Katulakin, which is Max, Fitz, Jordan, Max Nelson, Ethan, Johnny, Eric Daniel, Trevor Anthony. So it's like friends and family. And then Bing Bong got Jacob, Ben, Sush, Bowen, Ernie, Raheem, Shams, Aaron, Leon. And then in Team Iron, there's just like too many people because it's just a big conglomerate of people. For Blackwing people, my practice squad, so the main people are going to be Eric Choi or Dehan, Eric Chai, we know Chai T, Nima, and Jason or Triple Dribble or Glick. But those four guys are like the main people I will play with and talk with on a pretty frequent basis. And I definitely wouldn't have gotten as far as I would have without them for sure. On the other hand, for like other Blackwing people I talk with, Nelson, Johnny, Chofil, ProStorm, Henry, Hector, and Red Gadget, those guys have all bounced ideas off of at some point, and they've definitely helped me and been really supportive. And then I haven't talked to them, but Ludo and Yundaime, along with Phil, they're like the three OGs in my eyes, and like the three European Blackwing players that have really paved the way. Like if you're looking to start to learn how to play Blackwings, I would recommend like those three people to look at first. As of now, I think there are a
Right
couple
after
other people you could
Harrison
look at.
Jeong.
Yeah. I still don't know if I'd put myself there. I'm still learning so much. So yeah, like, they're still killing it now. So I really look to them. Also just like support from like you guys, like friends that I've met in real life in the scene. So, I talked about how the scene's just, an amazing place, and, you guys are a big part of that as well. So some people in SoCal that I've met, and, just all over the region, thank you guys all for cheering me on throughout the day. Really meant the world to just like see the messages throughout, and like especially at the end, like I was just like, holy shit, like people, part of it was the meme for like GB's losing, of course, but like just having all that support meant the world, truly. Lastly, Keegan and the staff, so Asian with Hat, Nova, and Foxy for helping to make rulers happen, and for making all the future RBTs happen and all the IRL tournaments that we'll hopefully be able to go to. But yeah, I know it's a long list of shout outs, but I think it's an testament to like how finding making friends and finding people you can practice with can really help you get there. And like some people were asking like what I would say if I won, and like I don't know. I think the main thing is like if I can do it, I think anyone can do it, because I started off from like just knowing nothing, and being here now, I'm still learning so much, and it's just thanks so much in part to everyone who I talk with, because whether you play the deck or whether you don't, you can always like pick out something that you can learn. Like I've learned so much from like Frogs, playing Declan, watching Declan. I've learned about Vayu watching Albert. I haven't played him yet, and I kind of don't want to because this guy's a beast. But yeah, like seeing you guys just like constantly kill it, there's always something to like watch and learn. So yeah, truly, like if you're watching, if you're listening, if you're thinking about getting in, like please do. Like a lot of us will welcome you with open arms, and we just want to see more people enjoy the game. That's truly it at the end of the day.
Dude, what a great message to end it on. Thanks so much, Harrison, and congrats again. Such a well-deserving victor and world champion, and such a great way to end out the Edison season.
Thank you guys so much.